In a move that stunned not only Washington, but also sent shockwaves through global markets and boardrooms around the world, Canada has unveiled the Pacific Prosperity Accord, a landmark $214 billion trade agreement with 12 of Asia's most dynamic economies. This sweeping pact is the largest in Canadian history, promising to reshape the nation's economic future and redefine its role on the world stage. Negotiated in near-total secrecy over months of intense, high-stakes diplomacy, this bold action signals a dramatic shift in international trade. For the first time, Canada is positioning itself at the very center of a new economic powerhouse, forging direct ties with Asia's fastest-growing markets and bypassing traditional routes. The United States, Canada's closest ally and largest trading partner for over a century, was left out of the negotiations entirely. The exclusion has sparked outrage and disbelief across the American political spectrum, with lawmakers and business leaders alike questioning the future of North American cooperation. The announcement was made at Vancouver's bustling port, a symbol of Canada's Pacific ambitions. Prime Minister Trudeau, flanked by Asian trade ministers, declared that Canada is now open for business on its own terms, ready to chart a new course in global commerce. This is more than just a trade deal. It's a bold declaration of economic independence. By redrawing the map of North American influence, Canada is signaling its intent to become a bridge between continents, connecting Atlantic and Pacific markets in ways never seen before. The accord slashes tariffs on thousands of goods, from technology to agriculture, and creates a seamless trade corridor stretching from the Atlantic coast all the way to Southeast Asia. This new framework is expected to boost Canadian exports, create jobs, and foster innovation across multiple industries. Former President Trump immediately denounced the deal as a betrayal, vowing severe consequences for Canada if he returns to office. His fiery rhetoric has only heightened tensions, raising questions about the future of US-Canada relations. For the first time in generations, Canada has forged a bold new path, one that doesn't revolve around the United States. As freight trains and cargo ships head west across the Pacific, a new era of Canadian independence and opportunity is just beginning. The Pacific Prosperity Accord, or PPA, is Canada's blueprint for a 21st-century economy. It unites Canada with 12 Asian nations, forming a free trade zone of nearly 1 billion people. The PPA eliminates tariffs on Canadian goods like beef, canola, and seafood, giving Canadian farmers a major edge over their American rivals. But it goes further, covering digital trade, intellectual property, and financial services, opening doors for Canadian tech firms across Asia. The government projects $214 billion in economic growth and hundreds of thousands of new jobs, especially in Western Canada. Ports in Vancouver and Prince Rupert are already planning expansions to handle the surge in trade. The deal's secrecy was key, allowing Canada to avoid US interference and focus on building consensus among its new partners. The result, a comprehensive, high-standard agreement that cements Canada's place as a Pacific power. The PPA is not just about trade, it's about Canada's future on the world stage. For decades, Canada was seen as America's junior partner, often overshadowed by its powerful neighbor to the south. The close relationship between the two countries shaped much of Canada's international image, with many assuming that Canada's destiny was inevitably linked to the United States. Its fortunes, economy, and even its global influence were often tied to the ebb and flow of American priorities and decisions. The border, while open and friendly, symbolized both connection and limitation. But now, the PPA shatters that image, recasting Canada as an independent, strategic global player. This agreement signals a bold new era, where Canada steps confidently onto the world stage, no longer content to play a supporting role. This transformation is the result of a long-term strategy, quietly building relationships across the Pacific and embracing the rise of Asia. Canadian leaders have worked tirelessly behind the scenes, forging new partnerships and opening doors to emerging markets. The world is taking notice. Leaders from Europe to South America now see Canada as a model for middle powers navigating a world of superpowers. Canada's approach is being studied and even emulated as nations seek a balanced path between global giants. Canada is no longer just America's neighbor. It's a global connector, a bridge between continents, cultures, and economies. Its influence now stretches far beyond North America, reaching into the heart of global affairs. This new identity brings national pride and a sense of purpose, allowing Canadians to define themselves by global leadership. Not just by contrast to the US, Canadians everywhere are embracing this shift, feeling a renewed sense of belonging on the world stage. The PPA is more than economic policy. It's a cultural milestone. It represents a turning point in how Canadians see themselves and how the world sees Canada, blending economic ambition with cultural confidence. It marks the moment Canada stepped out of the shadows and claimed its place in the spotlight, ready to lead and inspire on a global scale. No longer a follower, Canada is now shaping the future, setting standards, driving innovation, and building alliances that will define the next generation. The world is watching and following Canada's lead as the country redefines what it means to be a modern, influential nation. Canada's pivot away from U.S. dependence was driven by frustration and vulnerability. Decades of sudden tariffs and protectionist threats made long-term planning impossible for Canadian businesses. The Trump presidency and the bruising NAFTA renegotiation were wake-up calls, exposing the risks of relying on a single, unpredictable partner. Meanwhile, Asia's booming economies offered new opportunities for growth. The PPA is a strategic move to secure Canada's future in these dynamic markets. By diversifying its trade, Canada gains autonomy and reduces its vulnerability to U.S. pressure. This isn't about abandoning the U.S., but about building a stable, diverse foundation for prosperity. Canada is moving from dependence to interdependence, on its own terms. What sets the PPA apart is its strong emphasis on shared values. Canadian negotiators insisted on enforceable protections for workers and the environment, ensuring the benefits of trade reach ordinary citizens. The labor chapter upholds international standards, bans forced and child labor, and allows for trade sanctions if rights are violated. The environmental chapter is the most ambitious ever, with binding commitments to fight climate change and protect biodiversity. Clean technology cooperation creates new opportunities for Canada's green sector. This values-driven approach built trust among member nations and set a new global standard for responsible trade. The PPA proves economic growth and sustainability can go hand in hand. Canada's multilateral progressive model is now the benchmark for future trade agreements. The PPA sets Canada and the U.S. on sharply different economic paths. Canadian businesses now enjoy preferential access to nearly 1 billion consumers, gaining a major edge over American competitors. U.S. withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership now looks like a strategic blunder, leaving American firms locked out of Asia's fastest-growing markets. International investors are eyeing Canada as the new gateway to both North America and Asia. Factories and jobs are shifting north as Canada's diversified economy becomes more innovative and globally integrated. Meanwhile, the U.S. risks becoming more insular and less competitive. Its America First policy backfiring. The PPA is already reshaping investment flows, job creation, and the balance of power in North America. Canada is on a trajectory of growth. The U.S. faces relative decline. The era of American trade dominance is over. Canada is now setting the pace. The U.S. response to Canada's new trade deal has been swift and furious, led by former President Trump's angry denunciations. His words have echoed across the nation, stirring up a storm of controversy and debate. The shockwaves from his statements have reached every corner of the political landscape, igniting passions on both sides of the aisle. He's threatened massive tariffs and accused Canada of betrayal, setting the tone for a wave of outrage in Washington. The rhetoric has only intensified, with Trump's supporters rallying behind his calls for tough action, while critics warn of escalating tensions and economic fallout. Politicians and business leaders feel blindsided, warning that the PPA puts American companies at a severe disadvantage. Many are scrambling to assess the potential impact, fearing job losses and shrinking market share as Canadian firms surge ahead. Industry groups are sounding the alarm as Canadian competitors gain a government-endorsed edge in key export markets. The sense of urgency is growing, with calls for immediate action to protect American interests and level the playing field. The sense of panic is palpable. American farmers and manufacturers now face new barriers while Canadians celebrate. Across rural America, uncertainty looms as families wonder what the future holds for their livelihoods. This angry awakening exposes a fundamental misunderstanding. Washington took Canada for granted, assuming it would always follow. Now, lawmakers are forced to reckon with the consequences of years of complacency and neglect. The PPA shatters that assumption, forcing America to confront the costs of its inward-looking policies. The realization is sobering. The world has changed, and America's old strategies no longer guarantee success. While the U.S. built walls, Canada built bridges, and now the U.S. finds itself on the outside looking in. The contrast is stark. highlighting a missed opportunity for cooperation and shared prosperity. The world is moving on, and America is no longer at the center. Global alliances are shifting, and new partnerships are forming without U.S. involvement. The divide is real and growing. As the gap widens, the question remains: can America adapt, or will it be left behind in a rapidly changing world? The Pacific Prosperity Accord is the latest chapter in a long, often tense trade history between Canada and the U.S. Recurring disputes over resources like lumber and energy have long made Canada feel like the junior partner, vulnerable to sudden American protectionism. NAFTA and its successor, the USMCA, deeply integrated the two economies, but didn't end the cycle of conflict. The bruising NAFTA renegotiation under President Trump left lasting scars in Ottawa, reinforcing the risks of relying on a single partner. The PPA is Canada's direct response, an effort to break the cycle of dependency and build a more resilient, diversified economy. By forging strong links with a dozen other nations, Canada is counterbalancing American influence. This isn't the end of US-Canada trade, but it's a fundamental rebalancing. Canada's new strategy is shaped by a century of hard lessons. The future is global, not just continental. The Pacific Prosperity Accord marks a profound shift in the global order. It signals the decline of U.S. dominance as the world's economic rulemaker. Nations are no longer waiting for Washington. They're building their own high-standard agreements. Canada's coalition building and focus on shared values stand in stark contrast to America's recent isolationism. The PPA proves that middle powers, working together, can shape a more balanced, stable world. For the U.S., this is a moment of reckoning. Continue down the path of isolation, or re-engage with humility and cooperation. The choices America makes now will define its place in the 21st century. Canada's declaration of economic independence is a turning point. The old order is fading, a new multipolar world is rising, and Canada is leading the way.